Chef John Shields began his culinary training in the St. Louis area, attending culinary school and working in local restaurants. Shields spent 2 years serving as the sous chef at the world-renowned Charlie Trotter's in Chicago before continuing his career with Chef Grant Achatz at Alinea as sous chef in 2005. During his 2 years there, Alinea grew from an exciting upstart to one of the best restaurants in the world. After leaving Alinea in 2008 to pursue the next step in his career, John and his soon-to-be wife Karen turned down an offer to lead the opening of a Charlie Trotter restaurant in Las Vegas. Instead, they took a bold chance on an opportunity to open a little-known restaurant in the countryside of southwestern Virginia. It was here that the Shields found their creative voices, and their food quickly gained national attention. After 4 successful years at Townhouse and Riverstead Inn, John and Karen decided to return to Chicago to open Smyth The Loyalist, where they have again won the praise of food enthusiasts and have now earned 2 Michelin stars. Hi, I'm Ashton Gustafson, and this is Good, True, and Beautiful, the Chef Sessions. But before we get started, here's a message from this episode's featured nonprofit.
Hey guys, I'm Scott Harrison, the founder and CEO of Charity Water. We are on a mission to bring clean and safe drinking water to every single person on the planet. We're a little bit different in that we use 100% of all public donations to directly fund water projects that we then prove using photos and GPS and satellite images so people know where the money is going. We just have a deep belief in the power of radical transparency and building a community. And we've now been joined by over 1 million people around the world that have said, not on our watch are people drinking dirty water, especially if we know how to help them. So the best way to learn more about Charity Water, you can just visit charitywater.org/spring. We have an amazing monthly community of givers who are showing up, some giving as little as $10 a month, some giving $30 a month, some giving $100 a month. And there's an amazing video there too, which just tells the story that you could just help us by sharing with your friends. We would love to invite you to be a part of solving the water crisis, of ushering in a day where every single person alive has access to clean and safe drinking water, their most basic need. And we invite you to join Charity Water in that.
Hey friends, Ashton here, and welcome back to another episode of Good, True, and Beautiful. We are in the midst of our second season of chatting with some of America's most well-known chefs at the moment. And you guys know I love getting to know the thing underneath the thing with the minds and the hearts and souls of so many of these guys around the country. They're doing amazing and beautiful things. I find them to be crazy curious, and every time I get off the phone with one of them, the world expands a little bit, and that's what we're after here. So today, joining us from Chicago, Chef John Shields. He is the chef and owner of Smyth The Loyalist. Smyth is a Michelin restaurant in Chicago, really on the map of so many different scenes that cover the food cuisine and food culture in America. And with that being said, John and I, we bounced around for a week or so, but we were finally able to make it happen. So, John, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ashton.
Absolutely, man. So, I always try to briefly get us to your story of where you are today, but I know that there's so much. There's Virginia, or West Virginia maybe, Alinea, Trotter. You've got all this. There's so much that led you to where you are today. So I guess the best question is, when you introduce yourself and your work in the world, kind of where do you begin?
Yeah, that's probably something we're a little more current anyway. As much as I'd love to go back, it's been a ride. There's no doubt about it. And the funny thing is, it feels like we're just getting started. So
Right,
it's kind of a strange place to be, but exciting, and it kind of keeps everything new and fresh. But yeah, you did get it right. I grew up in Florida, and went off to school in St. Louis for a little bit, and found that it just wasn't for me. And so I decided to take the road of hard knocks and that I liked. In that way. then throughout the years, I've just kind of traveled around, going to Chicago and then leaving and going to, you had it right the first time, Virginia. It was Southwest Virginia. Okay. So, and then sort of in limbo there for a little while, trying to get the restaurants open, and now back to Virginia again.
Wow.
Or excuse me, back to Chicago again.
Right. So this is one of, I think we can always keen in on an interesting part here. When was it when kind of the veil parted for you with food, and you were like, oh, there's something here? A curiosity was birthed within you. When did this begin?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was like in my blood, that's for sure. It was something that happened organically over time, I think. And it was a subtle suggestions from my dad, who at the time, enjoyed cooking at home, and I was sort of in limbo with what I wanted to do with myself. He suggested it. I kind of nodded and tried to, do some recipes here and there, but I really wasn't focused on it. It wasn't like all of a sudden I grabbed a knife and I was just, it came to me naturally. It just didn't pique my interest at that time. But, my grandfather passed away, so we went up to St. Louis to take care of his estate, my mom and I. And, I was kind of ready for a change. And lo and behold, there was a culinary school there, and they also had a college program. And so she was thinking about getting an apartment up there anyway. And so I said, what the heck, I'm ready for something new. And decided just to kind of jump into culinary school without super real ambition. But luckily I got a job at a restaurant that was just full of eager, CIA graduates, Johnson Whale graduates. And then, I remember the one day, about 7 months into it, one of the chefs brought in a try to cookbook. And, at that time, internet is in its infancy as far as I was concerned, in the food world. And so I had no idea food could be like that. But I remember the dish. I remember the page that I saw, and almost like a light bulb went off.
Wow. And so that was that moment for you that kind of said, all right, this is a path that I think we should stay on for a bit, if you will.
Sure.
Where was the first job out of culinary school? Where'd you go?
Well, during culinary school, but right there in St. Louis, a restaurant called Cardwell's. A gentleman named Bill Cardwell. He had 2 restaurants in the St. Louis area, and at the time they were, more or less the best restaurants in there. They were definitely leaning heavily on California cuisine, which was sort of in vogue at the time, and we're talking late '90s, and that's where it all started. But it was these lessons that I learned there. It was, we would get checked out literally with flashlights at the end of the night. It was an incredibly clean restaurant. Everything was made there. And I didn't really join the restaurant with that intention. I sort of lucked out. But it was I opened my eyes. I didn't the whole world of food and what it's really like to work in this business.
Right. And I've never asked this question to any of the chefs that we've had on, but does each stop kind of chisel away something within you, and you go, oh yeah, I like that, and not so much, and each little place kind of, you begin to start to find your voice, your fashion, your way of doing things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that just it's all, I think most of it just kind of comes, as now, we have our own places. It's sort of like your parent. It feels almost like your parents telling you your whole life, you got to do this, you got to do that, and you sort of roll your eyes, and then eventually you realize that they were right about everything. And some of these life lessons, that I learned in these restaurants are now coming full circle in a lot of ways. And so I think it just sort of happens naturally that way. But yeah, you take a little bit from here, and you leave a little there, and you're always learning.
One of the things that always blows my mind with guys like yourself is just the newness, like the never been done before vibe and feel that you guys, that energy that you bring to your work. And I always wonder, what are the rituals or the disciplines, daily practices that keep that creativity sharp within you? Is there Is there a place you go? Is there is it in nature? Is it I don't even want to label it for you. I'd rather just hear
Only
you,
perfect ones.
is there anything like that that kind of um,
Yeah, I
keeps
mean,
the
I was.
creativity going?
Yeah, a restless mind. I think for me personally, it's innate in me, and it's something I can't help.
Hmm.
It's more boredom, I think, than anything, and I got to keep trying new things to
Yeah.
pique my interests.
Yeah.
But we've been lucky and fortunate enough to partner with a farm called The Farm, and it's about an hour from the restaurant, and they grow exclusively just for these two restaurants. And so now that's pretty much everything that we do creatively stems from there.
So
Because we do
whatever's happening at the farm,
whatever's
that's what you
happening in the
got.
farm is what we got. But when I say it forces creativity in a lot of ways, because we'll get a ton, who knows how many tons of squash at a time, or cucumbers at a time, or tomatoes, and you got to find something to do with it, and it's not all just putting them in jars and pickling them. It's like, well, what can we do? Can we juice it and reduce it and make like a caramel out of it, or soy sauce, but maybe it's savory, and there's 1,000 things you can do with these things. You just got to use your imagination beyond just like I said, preserving it.
So how did the relationship with the farm begin?
Yes, yeah, social media. I
Oh,
just kind of
really?
reached out looking
Wow.
for black walnuts, and a gentleman, Elliot Papineau, his parents who have the farm, reached out and said, yeah, my family's got a lot of black walnuts on the farm, and you should reach out and see if we can, grow a few things. They were not growing for anyone at the time, just doing it as a hobby, a retirement hobby. They loved the land, and then lo and behold, our relationship blossomed from there. We get along. We're like family, and
Wow.
and now it's going. The 20-acre farm, which when we first started was maybe a half-acre plant, a few boxes here and there, and now it's it's a full functioning farm.
Wow.
It's pretty awesome.
Beautiful. So, tell me about Karen's involvement in all this.
Sure, sure. Well, her role has changed over time. And she's, we are parents to two girls, and obviously now we're business owners. So,
Yeah.
as much as she would love to spend her days, rolling out doughs and making custards, there's just no time for that anymore.
Yeah.
It's more of a, back end of the house roll, or front end of the house roll, or making sure that there's enough light bulbs here, or that if there's a broken toilet, maybe she's handling that. I mean, it's just there's no glamour in it for sure, but and then obviously keeping an eye on how we're doing financially, and making sure the restaurant's growing and doing what it needs to do. So she wears a lot of hats right now. And which is great, because it's my partner in crime and life, and someone I can trust, that I know is going to make the right decisions.
Totally. So, what was it that brought you back to Chicago? I would love to hear kind of the story of Virginia, and then because I think Smyth, you kind of pay homage to Virginia with the name of the restaurant. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was I don't know, maybe fate brought us back to Chicago in a lot of ways. We were in Virginia. We just had our first child, and I think we were ready for something new. The next move. I think we knew that to reach our goals, whether it be from a a culinary perspective in the world, to finance and living and growing and retirement and all those types of things. We just felt we needed to be in an area that we could generate maybe more revenue and have more of a voice. And so we naively left quickly and thought we'd open a restaurant right away. And then, like I said, we were in limbo for a little while, trying to figure out where we wanted to be. All the while kind of in the DC area, really pushing for that. A lot of our clientele, and when we were in Virginia, was from that area. We had family nearby and in DC, and it just made sense. So we kept pushing for DC for just about 2.5 years, I would say. And we had some really close calls, things, restaurants that or spaces that were supposed to happen that didn't. for whatever reason. And but it was like almost like this. I don't know. Energy kept pushing back. I just kind of in my gut, Karen's gut. We just kind of knew it wasn't right. It wasn't the right fit. And all the while, Karen's like, why don't we check out Chicago again? And I was just at the time sort of like ready for something new, and so I was kind of reluctant. But even in my gut, I had a feeling that it would just make sense. And but during that time, one positive, or one of the many positive things that we took from that time, was we opened up reopened Riverstead. So we kind of went back and we had Townhouse down there, but we had Riverstead, the inn, and we reopened the inn to basically do 1 month pop-ups for about a year and a half. And so we go down for a full week, and diners would come from all over. We filled the place up every week, and it helped us kind of remain viable, remain financially viable, relevant, and continue our search for where was the next stop. But along the way, when we sort of did this experience, it was only 16 seats in the dining room.
Wow.
Everybody showed up at once, and it was basically a dinner party. And
That's cool.
And so during that experience, that helped shape our vision, hone our vision for what Smyth was going to be. And very much the space represents that time there. But obviously Smyth County, the name Smyth comes from the county of Virginia we were in Chilhowie. And basically, it's how we got our start. It's where we got married and had our first child, and where our careers blossomed, and really the philosophy of what we do now all stem from there as far as the food goes.
I love it. Well, I haven't been. I can't wait. I'm coming soon. How it from the outside looking in, it looks as though that the taste that you guys have, the attention to detail, the presentation is just off the charts beautiful, and yet you also seem to kind of have this, I don't want to call it casual vibe, but it doesn't feel as, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I don't really know the word I'm looking for, but it doesn't seem as stuffy as maybe someone would think of gourmet food or anything like that.
Yeah.
So tell me how and why, and really it just seems to me that from your persona, your essence is kind of chill, kind of laid back.
Yeah, it is. I think I think you sort of hit it on the head. It's sort of a reflection of who we are as people. I think we're at heart, I'm a blue collar guy. I just happen to have, a lot of white collar tastes when it comes to certain things in life. But I just don't want any fakeness though about what we're doing. To me, it doesn't make sense, and our sort of our philosophy was, especially with Riverstead, or even Townhouse for that matter, when, guests came from all over, the last thing we're going to do is make them feel uncomfortable or have this sense of like, said stuffiness about us. And that was the last thing we want to do. It's all about hospitality and feeling comfortable. And so when guests come here, it's like, when we opened the restaurant, we said, people talk about restaurants and they go, okay, well, we're going to make it feel like they're coming to my house for, a dinner party. And I've heard that a million times. And you go to the restaurant and the first thing is like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'll be your waiter. It's a very, the wall's already been, divided at that point. And I'm like, well, you wouldn't act that way if you went to someone's house. If you went to someone's house and they were cooking dinner, and you would go, hey, how's it going? Here's, I brought a bottle of wine. Like, let's have a great time tonight. And that's what we really wanted to create. And I think, we wanted a sense of a family here and people that enjoyed being here every day. And that was important to us. But, technically I have a lot of goals with the food and the naturalism obviously stems from the farm, and so I just wanted to find a way to tell our story in an honest way.
I love it. So how did Smyth and The Loyalist, did they open up like simultaneously?
Almost about a month apart.
Wow.
So
some people say, yeah, let's open a restaurant. And you say, yeah, we're going to double down and do two of these. Tell me how that came across.
Well, we always wanted to have like a little offshoot of the restaurant, of the main restaurant, even in DC, but on a much smaller scale. It was
Okay.
more like, hey, let's have our fine dining restaurant, and here's a little bar area, where you can
Right.
come have a few bites, see what we do. And hindsight, it was a little naive to think that way, um, um, but yeah, well, we this is kind of feeds both sides of my brain, or a place where, you come for someplace special, and you've come to be a part and be immersed in what's going on here. And then, another place where it's a place I want to go and have a burger. And I love, one of, like many great cities, Chicago has its fair share of bars and dark bars, and sort of that sort of old taverny feel. And we wanted to recreate that. We wanted something that was a complete juxtaposition to Smyth,
I love
something
that.
that was the exact opposite
I love
of
that.
it. So,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and it shows people who we are as
Yeah.
people. It lets people know that we're not just these 2 Michelin star chefs that only cook with tweezers.
Yeah.
We love to we want to be a part of the community, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, one of our conversations here is always, we don't want to be either or, we want to be both and.
Right.
And I love that you got 2 Michelin stars, and yet you also have the best burger in Chicago, some have
I
said.
know.
So that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you and Karen, in your, your journey as chef, business owner, entrepreneur, creative, what values do you think you guys has just kind of been your bedrock, your North Star, that base note that really, is it authenticity? It seems like that's one of them for you guys. What would be maybe some of those core values that you've just said, this is the direction we're going to go?
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we want to stay humble, remain humble. I think that the strain and the journey to get to this point, and doing what we had to do and sacrifice to get here is something we'll never forget. And I think it was really good for us. And so we really want to have a sense of appreciation for what's happening here. I think even as a young culinarian, I always knew I wanted to be a chef. I always knew I was going to be a leader one day. And, I as a young guy, I read would you rather be feared or would you rather be loved? And I thought to myself immediately, I'm like, neither. I'd rather be respected. And I think that encompasses everything. So I think what we do here is we show a lot of respect to our employees, the people that work here, the product that we use, and the craft that we produce every day. There's a lot of respect that happens throughout here.
Love it. So there's got to be a lot from the farm to people, leadership team, you name it. I think that having a restaurant is always way, way more than just having a restaurant. But in the midst of all that, from being a chef, menu creation, brand development, etc., what does success mean to you today? How has the definition of success evolved for you?
I think it's more than just having a couple stars or the best burger or this or that. I think for me personally, I've always been interested in being successful financially as well. And it wasn't enough for me just to open up my little art studio and hope for the best. I wanted to actually open a viable business and a place where we can grow, and we can have employees here and a good amount of employees here that as well are doing well in their lives, not just, working here for the next step in life, but feeling comfortable with their lives and how they're living. To me, look, at the end of the day, it makes the world go round, and it's not the measure of success, that's for sure, but it's nice to be able to say you can do both.
Yeah, totally. What have you learned on the business aspect of things about leadership recently?
Yeah. That I didn't know a whole lot, that's for sure. It's way more than just being inspiring or charismatic. There's just so many nuances to it that don't seem to ever end, and it feels, which is kind of cool. It feels very much like you can never really learn it completely. Something you always got to keep working at and trying to get better at. And I would say that question is probably even better for Karen, because I know she has completely immersed herself on that part of the business, and
cool.
and talking to her now compared to 2 years ago, even I can, I'm with her all the time, and I can't believe some of the words that are coming out of her mouth and the way she thinks about things, and I'm learning all the time from her now. So it's fantastic.
So what about the chef side of things? What's currently keeping you curious?
Oh man.
Is it the seasons? I mean, I feel like every change of season, there's probably a new pep in your step.
It just is, I mean, there's no way around it. It's cliche, but it's true. There's, especially for guys like myself and Kyle, and who have the farm. It's our livelihood. It's what we cook, and so there's really no other way around it. And to me, it just is. I mean, if you don't immerse yourself in the season, you're not living. It's like that's what I look outside right now, and it's gray and it's dark, and the food's changing with that. It's getting, we're serving our first warm dessert of the season tonight, and it's based off of tree fruits and hay and potatoes, and and it feels like right now. And when somebody comes in to eat tonight, they're gonna get a sense of that, what's happening right now and how we're feeling. And I don't know, for me, everything we do here is very intuition based. It's not overthought, even though perhaps people can probably look at, maybe some images on Instagram and think, maybe I overthought it, or they work too hard at it, or they, I would say 99% of everything that we do, the dishes are put together within about a day, if that, or maybe a few hours of thinking. It's just more of the feeling of what's happening at the moment, and going with it, and I really believe that the farm, the ingredients, they'll tell you what they want and how they want to be treated, and you just got to be able to have enough life experience, enough knowledge, and enough time spent working on your craft that then you're able to react to these things.
They will tell you what they want and how they want to be treated.
Absolutely.
As we talk both and not either or, how are you, talk to me about being a dad. Talk to me about being a father of 2 little girls. What are their ages?
They're 4 and 7.
Okay. I got 2 little girls that are 5 and 7.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to peek in. I'm going to peek into your notebook. What are some of the, how do you maintain that presence? 'Cause I know you're on, you got to be on. And yet it doesn't end in all of our businesses. It doesn't end. Yeah. But what have you learned with their arrival in your life? What have you learned with that?
One thing I've learned is that I was very nervous about having kids and being a chef at the same time, and just being a husband at the same time. Is it's very I've seen multiple people and chefs and friends be divorced and lose their kids, and I didn't want that. That was very important to me, to not lose that, and to keep a balance in life. And so when we opened the restaurants, we made sure that we had 2 days off. That was a no-brainer. One of the days being Sunday, for sure, because that's the only day that they're off of school as well. So that was incredibly important to us to start with. So, but not only that. I try to be home, and spend a little bit less lately. I have to admit, we've as the restaurants have gotten busier and whatnot, my ambitions have grown a little bit more even, and so it's kept me away from home as much as I'd like. But for the longest time, I would get back to the house, once a week, during the week anyway, and have dinner with them and spend the evening with them. And so you combine that with the 2 other days we're off, and it felt like a pretty good amount of time. I mean, even for not just being a chef, but even I'd say a lot of dads can't be with their kids as much as they'd like to be, but they really they've obviously helped me grow in a lot of ways. It's not about me anymore. And that's an interesting perspective, because obviously I've been immersed in myself for many, many years, trying to become a quote unquote great chef, and And that was my goal from day one. And now I've got new goals, to make them great people. So, so it's changed for sure. But I've got a great partner. So
beautiful. Yeah. The essence of what you and Karen are doing is, again, haven't experienced it in person, but from afar, my studies are, it's lovely what you guys are doing.
Thanks.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
One thing I ask everybody, no matter who they are, is what advice would you give to your younger self?
That's a good one. Oh man, I don't know. Probably to appreciate more of the experience along the way. I don't think I ever took it for granted, but I don't think I ever appreciate it the way I probably should have. Listen to your elders. Jesus, they know everything. Seems like. Always be creative and always challenge the status quo. There's no doubt about it. But man, they were right about everything. Wow. It's kind of freaky. Yeah. So I try to tell that to my kids now too. Like, just if you just listen to me, you'll be so far ahead. And I realize they're never going to do that.
That's right.
And they got to learn it themselves. So, I don't know, probably that.
That's cool. Chef John Shields, everybody. I again, haven't experienced it firsthand, but in the next 6 months, I will be making a trip to Chicago, and hope I get to shake your hand when I'm there.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Want to definitely come and experience what you guys are doing. For our listeners that maybe are going to be in the Chicago area, a couple things. Where are you guys located? And then secondly, online, where would you tell us to go check out what you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. So we are at 177 North Ada Street. It's in the West Loop, the end of the West Loop. And you can check us out on SmythTheLoyalist.com or you can check out some of my Instagram fun that we do here. A lot of
your Instagram feed is very, very rad.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's at Chef John Shields. So
beautiful. Well, you guys check it out. John, on behalf of all of us, super grateful for the good work you and Karen are putting into the world, and super thankful that you shared some of your time and energy with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Ashton. Appreciate it.
All right, my friend. We'll talk soon. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Good, True, and Beautiful. If you did, please share it with those you love and those you lead. We want this place to be a place where we can all gather and point at that which is good, true, and beautiful. And as you approach this week, may you pause by the orchid, listen to the bluebird sing, and be love.